京局第9番ガシャーン
But I want to go on to the next section, obviously, because it's from all the frustrations that when they were trying to sort out how do we have Gigi in the house, what do we do next, and obviously Okarun's punya train of thought was, I want to be stronger. What are your thoughts, Apin? And we'll go to Andri.
I understood his motivations for wanting to become stronger than Gigi lah. Everyone thinks that Evil Eye can beat Okarun's Turbo Granny mode.
Turbo Granny pun macam confident. Dia cakap dekat Okarun, dia kata, aku boleh belasah lah budak tu, tapi engkau je lemah.
Here's the thing. I think Turbo Granny is saying that Turbo Granny can defeat Evil Eye Gigi Vessel. She doesn't say that she can defeat Evil Eye directly as a spirit against spirit now. So I'm going to take that as, you know what, Evil Eye kan is pretty strong. This is the first time you see her talk someone kan ada macam respect now. Part of the reason kan he wanted to fight Gigi right is because of the fact that he actually harmed Momo a few times now. Dia memang punch Momo one time.
Yeah.
Kadang-kadang ada lebam kat muka ni kan. That was from Gigi. And then he almost killed Momo. Kalau Momo tak ada air panas dalam mulut dia kan.
Yeah. That bit was actually quite well done, the story-wise. Because Gigi rasa guilty gila because he did that to his friend.
Who cares if he felt guilty? You almost killed her.
But it wasn't him though. It does matter. It's not Gigi's fault.
It's not Gigi's fault. But his hand was the one that would have opened up her head.
Still not Gigi's fault.
How come not?
Macam kau kena rasuk dengan setan, kau nak bunuh aku tak marah kat kau marah setan no.
He had the chance to get rid of the Evil Eye problem days ago when Hayashi was sitting in the graveyard buat konsert terbuka tu yang and now he said please let me help Evil Eye. He took a risk.
Evil Eye.
Okay, do not negate everything that happens on his intent. Okay, actions happen and there are repercussions. If he killed Momo,
he wouldn't forgive himself lah.
He won't forgive himself. Okarun won't forgive himself. Saeko would be devastated. And you think is people gonna say, it's okay because Gigi didn't do it, Evil Eye did it. But that's beside the point. So Okarun wanted to become stronger because he wanted to get even dengan Gigi out. This is his selfish but understood a base reason lah. Because he likes Momo. And he is jealous of Gigi because Gigi is more handsome than him. Now they're paying more attention to him. And then he cannot actually go after Gigi if he has no powers. Now he has power. He overpowered him, and now he has a motivation to become stronger, so that he can actually get evil with Gigi. Part of him, he wants to help Gigi, no doubt. He's a nice guy, no doubt. But part of his selfish needs is to, punish Gigi once.
Yeah.
Momo's mine. I'm not giving her to you. You harm her, I'll harm you. Basic kid, motivations. It's totally understandable, totally relevant. I buy it. But I have to admit lah, it was satisfying to see him grow per se lah, a new set of balls lah. You have to understand he still has one ball. So the ball that he grown and even it's quite satisfying lah. He has been Mr. Nice Guy the whole time. Now we see kan, dalam dia kan he has a mean streak. He wants to punch Gigi. Okay, but he wants to want to punch him man to man. So the motivation makes sense.
Munif, your thoughts on our mini tournament arc. Having read the manga, what do you think of the animation?
Aku pada pendapat aku banding all the fights that we've seen so far on Dandadan, it's not like up there as one of the best fights lah. Mostly sebab dia tak kinetic sangat, sebab this asshole bobblehead macam just pakai the range attacks with the music notes macam tu kan. Tetapi because it's not that kind of kinetic kind of fight tau. Tapi what I like they did instead, yang they capture the essence from the manga, is that it's a damn macam creepy adversary tau. Yang tu dia tangkap, lagi-lagi bila keluar the four macam humongous macam assholes duduk menyanyi tu kan. So I remember macam reading the manga dari dulu. Dah lah macam masa tu aku je tak ada orang nak sembang lah, saya dan kan. Aku baca seorang-seorang tengah malam my laptop, tengok what is it, aku tak suka betul lah bila dia buat macam just like the Kito family tu, macam villain dia macam orang tapi macam bukan orang tau. So dia sangat-sangat unsettling tau. So and it's also purposeful pasal as I mentioned just now, kenapa this whole thing jadi is because budak-budak in the classroom mau tengok those macam poster orang-orang yang dengan rambut Isaac Newton tu semua kan nampak je scary kan, the posters, the pictures dulu tu. There's something about this old tiny pictures that just like creeps you the F out. So the opponents or the spirits pun they end up jadi macam tu because that's why they were manifested in the first place. Satu, kepala dia besar and hands, because the fear is tengok this old tiny pictures nampak sangat creepy. So the vibe that I got when masa baca the manga pun, it's not the most mind blowing fight macam solo leveling ke apa ke, but it was a creepy fight, and that was translated into the animation, which I'm really glad lah. And then bila tambah pula the music, which is the same as the whole Hayashi thing, because dia actually dalam Dandadan ni ada few sequences yang because kalau macam Jamal kata ni, banyak benda kita akan appreciate better as a drawing dalam manga as Tatsu intended. Tapi there's things juga bila dia main dengan music ni, kita actually tak dapat the full macam sensory experience macam as intended tau. So benda ni yang anime dia elevate kan thing lah. So yeah, this is just like the Hayashi thing, is one of those segments yang with the addition of music tu will actually macam menjelaskan lagi how the battle is going. Tambah pula macam Turbo Granny it's also an important fight. Walaupun ada orang macam kata maybe this is just macam filler kerana training up kejap ke apa, sebab dia memang went on the tangent lah, tiba-tiba lawan ni orang ni kan. Tapi at the same time it's also important pasal from the beat ni lah, with the assistance of the sounds and Okarun try to coordinate dia punya attacks pun, is when dia faham benda yang Turbo Granny nak ajar is that kau punya tempo tu is a quadruple times behind Evil Eye tau. This also leads to the salah faham that Okarun has about getting stronger. Sebab kalau tak silap aku, masa aku baca manga all those years ago, I think the sentence was that Okarun duk pergi sana sini duk minta orang teach me how to punch kan. So aku tengok orang kuat semua dia duk punch kan, aku nak punch balik asshole ni yang cuba nak attack girlfriend aku kan. So Turbo Granny punya ayat, I remember in the manga, macam dia cakap, dia actually, do you want to learn how to punch or do you want to be strong? Lain tau. So that's when dia macam terfikir, so strength is not macam straightforward macam dia cakap kan. So the thing about Turbo Granny ni, macam Turbo Granny cakap lah, dia in power and technique whatever memang Evil Eye lagi tinggi, but Granny doesn't lose in terms of speed tau. So you're asking the wrong questions. Kalau using my power set, what does it mean to be stronger with my power set? It's not just punching stronger. Sebab dia kalau kau compare macam contoh lah, macam aku tengok UFC kan, dalam UFC ni orang macam Evil Eye ni dia kata dia ada punching power tau. They need to just graze your face, kena CP sikit dengan haymaker dia kau dah tumbang. So that is KO power. Tapi ada setengah fighter ni dia panggil dia volume puncher tau. So volume puncher ni dia, the punches are a lot lighter, tapi dia very quick on the feet, dia tag kau, tiba-tiba kau macam 500 punches later kau dah terhoyang-hayang and kau tak dapat sentuh dia pun. So that's a real world comparison to how how strength can be varied tau sebenarnya, and this seemingly random fight going on the tangent ni is actually about teaching Okarun that untuk dia lagi faham what it means to untap the true potential of orang kata Turbo Granny punya power. Nama pun Turbo. So Turbo Granny ni is a yokai yang bukan a KO puncher, tapi is a volume puncher, so to speak. And this fight with the music and the learning of the tempo is the perfect stage untuk Okarun finally faham, oh yeah, this clicks. This is how aku could be a lot more devastating than what I'm usually doing tau. So sebab tu tiba habis je this orang kata training session, dia terus balik ke rumah Granny, bak sini air, let's go. So that's the full swing of that. I thought that is the purpose of this particular sequence lah, particular fight.
Jamal, kau ada apa-apa nak tambah?
I echo Munib's point about, while Tatsu did stuff on the page and it's meant to be consumed, that was the first the first point of consumption or touch point for Dandanan is the manga. Because Tatsu punya imagination and dia pakai banyak elements, pakai music, nak tak nak kita pakai anime lah. And for the most part, memang yelah kalau kau masukkan ke dalam, kau letak kat atas screen, memang akan ada audio dan audio tu yang akan elevate the experience. Aku pula strangely, the Hayashi punya music scenes did not knock me out like how the panel for Hayashi punya first appearance did. And I think the biggest reason for that, it was how Tatsu used the lines to capture the intensity of the singing and the music. And interestingly, walaupun dia pakai line macam tu je and hitam banyak, that captured a lot of intensity, and I filled in the rest with my imagination because the drawings were J-rock bands. Bila kita fast forward to the training arc and we saw the Mozarts and the Beethovens attacking, the musical notes didn't quite capture my imagination. It made me feel curious, yes, but I've seen this trope before. Jadi bila kat anime tu, that is where for me the medium of screen and anime will elevate it, because on the page aku tak boleh nak appreciate benda tu, which is a very interesting thing lah, sebab dengan ada toge-toge semua tu, dengan there's a lot more curved lines and less straight geometric lines, aku still tak boleh feel it, because for me, kau nak aku imagine classical music ke? Tapi scene ni scene yang tengah aksi, scene yang rancak. So, lagu macam mana yang kau nak aku bayangkan untuk fit dengan benda ni? Dan tempo dia pula macam mana? Because, it's about fighting and escaping and evading attacks and launching attacks. Tapi in the Hayashi punya scene, macam, I don't need to know what the music is. I just need to feel the intensity. So, it's an interesting, it was an interesting experience lah untuk aku.
So I'll just jump into this because keluarga aku listen to classical music, especially my younger brother is a classically trained violinist and pianist. So basically music classic is part of parcel of a staple lah masa dari kecil lagi. Tapi the interesting bit about this is I'm gonna put this up. This is twofold. So this is back to Jamal's early assertion on how Tatsu's very clever in whenever they introduce things, dia tak nak buat benda sama again and again. So this is actually part of an urban legend. So one of the urban legend is called the Beethoven Portrait Mystery. It's part of the famous 7 school mysteries, one of which we have already seen in Dandanan, which is Taro. So one of the 7 school mysteries is budak-budak sekolah malam-malam atau nampak the anatomic statue lari dalam sekolah. Lagi itu Hayako, the dead girl in the toilet, and there's an anime on it called Hanako, tapi it's a boy. So the Beethoven Portrait Mystery is one of them, and dia orang kata malam-malam kalau kau pergi music room, you kadang-kadang dengar somebody playing the piano ke, atau kalau kau main piano about a certain time ke, gambar tu hidup macam ni. In fact, this is found at the back of volume apa tak, dia bagi nama dekat all these 6 characters, which are actually based on actual people involved in classical music, most of whom are composers. I'll do it from the top. left, which is the one in grey with the red eyes. That's Tatsu call him Bun Ben, based on Ludwig van Beethoven. And then next to it is Ototetsu. Ototetsu tu maknanya kereta api. That's Antonin Dvořák. Antonin Dvořák is a Hungarian composer. One of his famous composition is called Humoresque. I remember my younger brother learning that for grade berapa. I mean, lagu dan taran 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 taran. So that's Dvořák. And as a kid, he grew up in Prague or something, and he likes trains, hence the name that Tatsu gave him. And going below Dvořák there, yang mak kuning pakai macam that's nama dalam cerita dia Baba. The English translation is Grandma Bach. That's Johann Sebastian Bach. So one thing korang akan fikir, oh, Hayashi buat lagu macam ex-Japan, korang takut copyright, ini selamba je. Classic music ada twofold. Lepas 75 tahun, lepas komposer tu mati, lagu tu orang kata public domain. Macam how cerita apa? Piramli. Tapi copyright masih wujud pasal mana ada recording dari abad ke-18. So obviously kau akan guna recording from somebody last year ke 50 tahun lepas, unless you find a recording from 9. So kalau kau pergi Wikipedia, kalau kau tengok little bits kat tepi tu how they want to bagi kau if you want to listen to Symphony No. 6, click on this. Diorang guna an orchestra recorded from 1920 something, so it sounded dated. Tapi kalau kau tengok end credits for chapter 20, for episode 20, dia tulis lah, dia orang actually minta permission lah daripada whoever perform. Because you have to bear in mind, in Japan, classical music, Japanese musicians are very, I mean, like Malaysia dia MPO semua kan, Japan lebih advance sangat. They have loads of classical musicians. Anyway, pakai spek tu, Megane means glasses. That's Franz Schubert, Australian musician, died at the age of 31 due to syphilis. Apparently, according to Tatsu, dia punya karakter ni ada father complex just because Schubert used to live with his dad. Next to him is Mozart, Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, the one in Blue Eyes. The child prodigy who used to be able to write fantastic stuff when he was younger. And atas ni, dia ni bukan composer, dia ni conductor. He died in 1990. He's called Herbert von Karajan. Sebenarnya ada perbezaan pendapat tentang siapa watak ini, kerana ada yang mengatakan ini adalah Leonard Bernstein dan bukan Herbert von Karajan. Jika kita melihat secara mendalam, pada pendapat saya lah, beliau lebih lagi menyerupai Leonard Bernstein daripada rupa, dan juga Bernstein adalah juga seorang komposer, unlike Herbert von Karajan yang hanya seorang konduktor. Bernstein terkenal dengan Hari Christmas 1989, di mana beliau conducted the Berlin Philharmoniker setelah jatuhnya Berlin Wall. And guess what? One of the famous composition that dia conducted was Symphony No. 9 in D minor, Opus 125, choral, yang would explain why his nickname dalam komik ni adalah Ninth atau Daike. So in short, I think this is Leonard Bernstein. The fact that it was translated very nicely on screen, which is fantastica.
Ada.